Look, did you?
What a good way to start. Chad, you ready? Yep. All right, we're live.
Hey, boy, did you forget who the crap you're talking to? I think over the last little while, son, you have forgotten who the crap you're talking to, son. That's all right. I'm about to remind you. About to show you a thing or two, boy.
Let's see it.
I'm gonna go ahead and tell you.
Let's see it.
I've let you slip for too long, boy.
Slip?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I let you slip for too long.
What are you talking about slipping?
Well, it's on me to set the standard around here.
What are you talking about?
Lord knows you ain't gonna do it.
What are you talking about?
I mean, you're just slipping in all angles, man. You're getting weak. Video crap's making you weak. Computer stuff's making you weak. Friggin' not training's making you weak. Not racing's making you weak.
What else?
All that stuff. You always
being weak's making you weak.
Look, you always trying to make me film these stinking videos, man. That crap just makes you weak, dude. That crap's a distraction.
I think it's weak to not do what you're supposed to do and what you commit to do.
No, I didn't come out. I ain't commit to do nothing.
Sure did.
I didn't commit to do nothing.
Sure did.
Look, y'all have both gotten way out of whack with what all this is all about. YouTube.
Hey, Tig said weak. He's the only one here that's about to walk into a workout. So
Tig already worked out, man. Tig already PT'd this morning, man. I'm going to talk to y'all about training here in just a minute.
That'll be good.
Yeah, because you know what? Most of y'all are all stuck in the same mindset that Blake and Chili are stuck in, that your little 1 hour a week PT is going to do anything for you.
That's my mindset.
Most of y'all are stuck in that mindset. Yeah. While we're talking about training, before we kick this podcast off, I haven't picked the team for the Rite of Passage, the ROP course in June yet. So there's still some time. If you want to put your application in, send the application. If you don't know how to send an application, if you want to train at the Rite of Passage June 9 through 11, I'll make it real easy for you. Because we take all comers, even smooth brains. So I'll make it real easy for y'all. Just click the description of this episode, and there's going to be a link in there. No, it's not going to be a link. It's going to be an email address, because there ain't no link. Because everybody's like, what is this Rite of Passage course? I tried to find it on your website. It ain't on the dang website. Everything ain't got to be on a stinking website, man. This ain't corporate canned. This is what we do, man. It'll be an email address. Send the email in if you want to train. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you, you better have your crap wired tight if you come train with me, man. Because I'm about tired of being nice. Yeah. I'm about to take y'all to the next level. Because of all the smooth brains, we have created a new shirt. Chili has created a new shirt for you guys. Because YouTube, there are enough of you that are, I don't know, I don't want to call you dumb, but I don't know what else to call you. But
that's not very edifying.
When I didn't call them, I said I don't want to call them dumb, but I can't think of another word, so I'm just not going to call them nothing.
Okay.
So that would be, by default, dumb.
when my little brother Blake, our tech guy, when he posts a video on YouTube teaching y'all how to shoot guns better, because he's the best shooter of all of us, y'all all comment on there and think it's me. What is wrong with you, Ben? So we've made a shirt for all the smooth brains. I'm wearing it right now. It's a new color, sherbet green. Look at this shirt.
Throw him one, Blake.
We got it there.
Is it
Can
showing
y'all
up?
see this?
Oh yeah, they can see it.
Yeah. Don't mess with the tech guy.
I freaking love that shirt.
And don't get the tech guy confused with me. All right? The tech guy's the money man. The tech guy makes the magic happen. If you've ever had an email responded to, it ain't me. All right? Don't mess with the tech guy. Sherbet green, son. Is there anybody watching this right now that's named Sherbet Green?
Sherbet.
Because
this is insane.
if you're on here right now,
S-H-U-R-B-I-T. Sherbet.
Sherbet Green, if you're on here right now, I'm going to send you a shirt for free. All right? So Roger up if you're on here, man.
There's nobody named Sherbet, dude.
Well, if there ain't, there should be.
What about what if there was a Herbert Green? That could be.
No.
That could be though. That's close
If it's
enough.
Herbert, maybe, but not Herbert. It'd be Herbert.
That's close enough. We'll give it to him too.
Live on, where can people buy this, man?
Well, you just trashed websites.
So here's something that is on the website.
Well, the website, just 3 of 7 Project store. You should be able to navigate to it. If not, well,
Somebody just bought one.
really?
Let me see who bought.
Is
Who
it
bought?
Dr. Aconian?
No, 2 people just bought one.
Dr. Aconian said he bought one.
I gotta
Oh,
see.
that's Anthony.
Anthony who?
Anthony, how you say his last name? Pullis. If he's on there, he's watching. He can correct
What
me.
the crud, man? Why can I not see these orders, Chili?
Sheely. Justin Sheely said he just ordered one.
Okay, Anthony, Lewis, Paulus, and Justin Sheely.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt McIver said that his bedroom name is Sherbet Green. That's what his wife calls it.
Sherbet Green, boy.
Well, these are a limited run, so
Chili, every shirt you make's a limited run.
well, yeah. Now don't.
Oh
We
man,
can talk about that later, but yeah,
this dang shirt. If y'all couldn't see it in the camera well enough, somehow Chili has made this shirt, and the image of the tech guy on this shirt, it literally looks just like Blake.
it's a picture of him, dude. Shout out to Fonzie for these shirts, by the way.
Thank you, Fonzie.
Yep,
It is a pretty.
that is Blake's #1 fan, Fonzie, and Fonzie's wife.
I thought your grandma was Blake's #1 fan.
Well, Blake's got so many fans, it's
Well.
hard to rank them. But
He does have the good thing about a lot of Blake's fans, though, is a lot of them just think it's me. So then I get double fan. I get the double fan load.
so a lot of people think you do what you do and what Blake does because you're just one person. That must be nice.
Look here, guys. We are 3 separate people. Yes, we make one person, but we're 3 separate people, like the Trinity.
Oh,
All right.
let's not go down that road.
Look, so if you see Blake on YouTube, it's Blake. Chili is a separate person. I'm a separate person, but we all make one. But you should still have enough sense to know which one we are. All right. What the daggone crap is wrong with people, man?
Some people said, boy, this must be an old video back before Chad grew his beard.
Yeah.
Well, here the problem with doing this right now is everyone that's listening to this probably doesn't make that mistake.
Yeah.
But the people who do make the mistake are not watching this right now. That's probably the biggest thing that's going to keep you frustrated in all this.
No, I'm not frustrated.
Oh,
I think it's wonderful. It gives me something to talk about on the podcast. People keep doing stupid stuff.
I'll
Please.
get on there and talk about my time in the SEALs.
Yeah, keep doing stupid stuff. It gives us something to talk about. We absolutely love it. The world would be a boring place without people not doing stupid stuff. So it's really a blessing. This episode is brought to you by our hydration partner, Hoist. Yeah, that's right. Made in the USA. On the cutting edge of hydration supplement. I have put this stuff through the test. I drank this for 24 hours straight when I was doing the treadmill run when I crushed Chili's soul for the second time. And let me tell you what, it works. It's better than water. It has all the stuff you need, 70 calories. It's got calcium, potassium, magnesium. Chili, what does magnesium do for you?
Lots of stuff. It's a part, a lot of people think electrolytes mean sodium.
Well, this has sodium in it too.
Right. Well, you need
milligrams.
you need sodium, but you don't just need sodium. You need potassium, calcium, magnesium, all that. It helps for every cell in your body to function properly. They're all very important.
Okay. So Hoist has got it all. And yes, it is outstanding. Tastes good. Works really well. And they're awesome people behind the brand, behind the product. Okay? Go get you some darn Hoist. Go get you some. Right now. Go to drinkhoist.com. They got a really easy website. They do have something that's on a website.
Why'd you get mad at websites?
These don't mess with the tech guy shirts are just flying off the shelves, man.
Well,
thank you guys.
I told you
we're about to really get a gauge on how many fans Blake has.
Yep, y'all don't let me down. You hadn't let me down yet. The sticker club, pulling right on through.
Yeah, you won the dang sticker club contest. Yep. That wasn't even a contest until you made it one and you won.
Yep.
Chad,
that was kind of...
You destroyed Chad on that.
Oh, yeah.
He went on Instagram whining and complaining, begging for people to get the sticker, and they still didn't.
Well,
that's pretty sorry.
That kind of... There's some details about that,
About what? The sticker club?
Yeah.
Yeah, the only detail they need to know is you lost.
Well, yeah, that's because you had like 2 people go on and order like 100 stickers of you.
Hey, it's quality, not quantity. Winning's winning, man. I mean, I'll teach you how to win in that arena one day.
Well,
we may have a specialized Chad shirt coming soon. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Or maybe a specialized sticker at least.
Yeah.
Hey. So, I'll talk to you guys a little bit about training. Hey, YouTube.
Hey.
What's up, YouTube?
What's up, YouTube? Do any of you guys train? We know Tig trains.
Mm-hmm.
Let me know in the comments. Does any of y'all train or what? Okay. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about training right now.
Well, I know that Kyle Chiraboga trains because every podcast live, he messages and asks if we're going to be at the CrossFit on Saturday. He wants to come train with us. So I know he trains.
Okay.
We ain't going to be there this weekend.
We're not there at CrossFit much on Saturdays, but
Justin Shealy said he trains on the spin bike right now.
Spin bike, Justin? What the crap, man? You're a mountain biker.
Oh, here we go. This guy, Chase Slider, he only cold plunges, so he trains.
Recovery activity.
Yeah, there's lots of folks on here training.
Okay, good. All right, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about training. Well, the fact of the matter is, around here at 307 Project, I'm about the only one that really trains anymore. And so I've been training right much here lately. Last week, had about 75 miles worth of running, about 20 miles worth of hiking, hundreds, if not thousands of reps in the gym. Foam roll, did a little recovery stuff. And man, it feels good to be training again. But for the last year or so, I've just been doing these little 1 hour a day workouts, and these guys, Chili, they think that's enough. It ain't enough for where I'm going. It ain't enough for where I'm going, Chili. All right.
Why are you putting words in mine and Blake's mouth?
So, I've got me a young man that I have hired out to help train me, because here's the thing. You are always, if you're training yourself, you're always going to bias to the things that you are best at. So it's really hard when you're training to do everything that you need to do in order to reach your maximum potential, because our minds are weak and we're going to bias toward the things that we're good at, even if it's subconsciously. All right. So I got my man Hamza. I'm training with him twice a week. I'm doing all my running and stuff on my own, except for Wednesdays when Chili runs with me. Well, runs behind me. But I got my man Hamza, and here's what's cool about this cat, man.
That's what it looked like last week.
What? You didn't beat me on a run last week?
Okay.
Oh yeah, the 4 mile time run. Yeah. That don't count.
Oh,
here's what I like about
documented.
Here's what I like about my man Hamza. This cat, man, I trained with him Sunday, and he busted me up Sunday, son. I'm talking about he busted me up. All right. That's at the end of a hard week of running. Well, I hit him up and I say, hey, man, let's train Tuesday and Thursday, because I wanted a day in between him busting me up on Sunday before I went back and saw him again.
Yeah, that'd probably be smart.
Because that joker breaks me off, man. And he said, well, that ain't going to work. Let's train Monday and Tuesday. And I said, Hamza, I got to run 20 miles on Monday, man. He don't give a crap. That joker don't care that I got to run 20. He don't. This is the thing. This is what, keep in mind, this guy is a world-class CrossFit Games athlete. His life is training. I mean, when he's getting ready for the games, he's training 8 hours a day minimum. And so when I come to him and I tell him, okay, I want to go, and I'm gonna do my best to win this event that I have coming up, this race. Well, he takes that literally, and then automatically his expectation is, okay, you want to be the best, so I'm just going to assume that you're going to commit all day to your training, like I do, like Hamza, like he does. And so when I tell him I got to run 20 miles on Monday, he's like, Roger that.
Why you telling me?
Yeah, I'll see you. I'll see you when at our scheduled time, right? And I'll tell you another thing about this guy's training philosophy that I like. And Chili probably don't like any of this, because he thinks he knows everything about training, but he ain't even that good. I'll tell you another thing about Hamza's training philosophy that I like. I'm watching this guy, and even when I used to watch him when he was training up for the games, he would always do a little more. He would always do a little more. He would always add a little more weight than he had to. He would always just go a little. And this is I've noticed this every time I go and work with him. He knows what I've got coming. And so every time we work together, he wants to make the running aspect of it harder than just running, if that makes any sense. So, like, If we have any running in our workouts, he has me carrying a daggone 40-pound sandbag or wearing some kind of weight or doing something that's causing more resistance than just the activity of running. And I really like that, man, because here's the thing. I can't recreate the event that I'm about to go and do. I cannot recreate that in training. I only have these mini time blocks in training. So during that time, I really like that he is so adamant about making the activity harder within that mini time block than it's going to be out when you're actually competing. I just like that mindset, man. And don't get me wrong, you have to run the regular miles too. But every time you can get the opportunity to make it a little harder than it's going to be on race day, at least for a small segment, I think that's a wise decision. Another thing I like about this cat, man, he doesn't have any emotion at all. He literally just stands behind me and says, go faster. Go harder. Like, no good jobs, no pat on the back, no, oh, are your muscles sore today? Well, we're going to modify something. It's none of that crap, man. So training is going good. I feel stronger now. This is probably, the last 2 weeks have been, I would go as far as to say, the hardest 2 weeks of training that I have put in. Because I'm not usually a high miles running a week type of guy. And I would say just cumulatively, last week and then now going into this week are probably the hardest 2 weeks of training I've ever put in. And my body feels strong, man. The pale horse about to ride, son. I told y'all, I ain't messing around. What do you think, Chili?
Oh, I don't know if you want to go into this. I mean, I fundamentally disagree with pretty much everything you just said. So I don't.
Well, that's why you're you.
Yeah. I mean, we can either talk about it or not. I mean, I have no disrespect to Hamza at all. I mean, I respect him a lot, and he is literally an elite world-class CrossFitter, but he can only help you do supplemental work for a 250-mile foot race. And this isn't some knock on him. He's not a runner. He's not a running coach. To use him as like a primary workout like that is just foolish. It violates the specificity aspect of training. The two pillars of training that matter most to everybody, regardless of what you do, is specificity and consistency. So, I mean, I could literally dissect each piece of what you said, but I mean, I fundamentally disagree with most of it. Like, that's not how you should approach supplemental training. Like the whole idea of the Monday thing after you've got a 20 miler and you're sore from Sunday, like, why would you not space out these supplemental workouts so you can recover from them and then get more benefit from them when you actually do them?
Because I ain't a puss.
Well, that's great that you're not a pussy, but like, that's not going to get you as much better as you possibly can. I mean, that's great. If you're a puss, that's going to significantly hinder you, but you can also do things in a smart way, and that doesn't make you a puss. That'll let someone like me train more optimally, and you can bash your head in a wall all day and look back at me and be like, dude, I'm so much tougher than you, and maybe you are, maybe you aren't, and I'll be like, okay, well, what about doing this the right way and then getting better results? Like, basically, you have a conflict of goals. You have to decide what you'd rather do more.
I just want to go hard, dude.
Yeah, I mean, you have to decide. Like,
I just want to go hard.
I'm hearing two goals from you right now. I'm hearing you want to be the toughest dude out there, and I'm hearing that you want to win this race. Those are two different goals. You got to be tough to win the race.
Oh, no, I don't want to be tough.
But to make your goal to be the hardest dude out there that's not a good idea to win the race.
We'll see how that plays out.
Well, okay.
Yeah. Look, YouTube.
I'm sure we will.
Look, YouTube.
Dude, I could talk about this for hours. I mean, your mindset, your thought process around training is literally half retarded. I mean, it doesn't even align with what your stated goals are. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand it. A lot of people don't understand.
It's just because you're not ready to hear that yet.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand how it works.
Yeah.
And then when they see me do what I do, they're like, how did that just happen?
Well, I've never said that before. so maybe I will this time.
So I want you guys, Chili is obviously entitled to his opinions.
By the way, I don't think I know everything about training.
But I want you guys
that
are listening to take into consideration who the winner is sitting at this round table. Take that into consideration. Put that in your training pipe and smoke it, boy. Because somebody has crushed this joker on multiple occasions. So put that in your training pipe and smoke it. Look, y'all don't even understand what is happening here, man. Y'all read all the books you want. You look at all the science you want. You look at all this.
I'm not referencing books.
I'm going to tell y'all, man.
I'll reference one book. For bodily exercise profits a little, but godliness profits for all things.
Yeah.
That's why Blake doesn't train.
That's why I don't train. I just do that 1 hour a day. I profit a little.
Yeah, by the way, you made some mention of 1 hour a day. Yeah, who thinks 1 hour a day is good for what? I mean, what you're trying to do, dude, you need to train harder. By the way, you think you're training hard now, and you're not.
Well, when you think you're training hardest, that's a big mistake.
Well, look, you're not training hard as you think you are right now. You need to rewire what you think is hard, what the definition of hard is. You need to train a lot harder. You only got an 8-week window. You need to train freaking hard. But more than that, you need to train smart. And you definitely ain't training smart.
No, there's no such thing as training smart.
That's what a brilliant guy says.
Yeah. There's no such thing as training smart.
That's someone who
it's the reps, man.
Who's got a tailored plan, ready to go, well thought out. Yeah, that's what he said.
It's the reps. Look, again, I'll make the statement.
Keep doing your glute bridges and see how fast you can run.
Y'all have seen me crush Chili's soul many times. So he'll make a strong argument. The old bull shows you the results.
Well, I mean, if you want to,
Nuff Said.
I mean, if you want to say that, how much did either one of us? I mean, if you're talking about how training philosophies play out in the end, my training philosophy for the treadmill race was to not train. So obviously that wasn't a good idea. I mean, I didn't ever get on the treadmill. If you want to look at other races we've done, you can look at that. You can see how that played out.
Well, we were 1-for-1, but I'm the reigning champ right now. So really, your opinions don't matter at all.
Well, I don't think my opinions matter either.
I mean, your philosophies, they don't matter at all because they're not proven philosophies. You have to be the reigning champ to actually have a meaningful.
Well, what would your philosophy be from the treadmill race? You didn't train for that either, not specifically.
I don't even really have to train. Well, and I'll still beat everyone.
Well, I don't either to beat you. I beat you all the time, just on a whim, random.
Chili,
there's all kinds of videos of it.
Not when it matters, man.
When does it matter?
I gotta let you win sometimes on camera.
When does it matter?
That's a meekness thing, man.
You know when it matters is when you decide that it matters. That's when it matters. It's totally up to your discretion.
So everybody watching this, you make up your own dang mind who you want to listen to. All this specificity, smart, doing all this stuff. Or do you just want to go hard, man, and just crush everybody? Because that's what it takes. All right? That's what it takes.
You got that? Chill.
That's literally illogical.
And,
I mean,
That's licit, ain't it?
Doesn't even make sense. That's real licit.
And whoever, I want to give y'all one more tip, and then Blake's going to talk to us some about Scripture here. A lot of you guys, and including me, you think you have all these nagging problems in life, right? There's all kinds of crap nagging at you, man. All these, what many would call first world problems. You got all this mess nagging at you, right? You got to do this and that and wash dishes and go to the DMV and pay your taxes and all this superfluous bull crap. Let me tell you what you can do to minimize the significance of all of your little first world problems. Train like me.
I love the moods you get in when you start training a little bit harder than you were.
Go ahead and go out and inflict and go ahead and go out and inflict some real pain upon yourself. And all of a sudden you're going to realize all the little nagging bull crap, it's just going to shrink. Go ahead and inflict some real pain upon yourself. You realize, man, nothing else really mattered about that crap, man. I'm hurting up in here. Tip of the week.
You know, it really throws you off.
Tip of the week.
No kidding. It throws your training off to actually have a race you're about to do. It throws you off because you would rather just, like do it not for that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I mean, it really does throw you off to have a race that you're training for because it needs to become about that race and getting ready for that race, but you can't do that.
Except nothing throws me off.
Well, okay, but
except that.
But I mean, you don't like that. You really don't like to have a race you're training for because you refuse to be smart and be a tactician about that race and figure out the details of how, like, what would be optimal for you to do because you don't want to do that. You just want to go hard and have it change your day to day and train for different reasons. It really does throw you. It's very interesting. You don't operate well with a specific goal like that.
No, you're right. I like the process more than I actually like the event.
Yeah.
I like everything leading up to it.
So you should just do the process and not even race.
I'd run myself into the ground, son.
Oh, I thought you couldn't do that.
Oh, I can't.
Oh.
Yeah.
He would, but he can't.
I would. Thanks for reminding me of that.
Hypothetically.
Appreciate you reminding me of that.
Well, yeah, it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Run yourself in the ground. You can't do that. Not on 70 miles a week.
So.
Well, this has just all been fake talk up to this point, hasn't it?
Dude, it's all a load of crap. Eventually, every lost soul out there will realize that. But
there's your tip of the week. Chili, before we go ahead and expound on Scripture, should the people be worried about all these banks shutting down?
No.
Okay.
We'll save that for another time.
Okay. You don't want to pacify their mind at all?
I have no interest in talking about that, but actually, yeah, you should be real worried. Everyone get fired up, get in a frenzy and freak out. Freak out. Start freaking out.
Start prepping.
Yeah, start prepping. You need to move all your money. Wherever it's at, just move it. I don't care where it's at. Just whatever it is in, move it to something else.
Yep.
And then do that in a couple more weeks.
Would you hold on to it if they wanted to move it to you?
If they wanted to move it to me, I'd be glad to keep it, and then I'll move it somewhere else. Yeah.
Chili's money management.
You can certainly move it to me. That's perfectly fine.
So Chili's advice for you guys that are worried about all the banks
is to freak out.
These banks shutting down.
It's going down.
Freak out. Begin to prep.
Mm-hmm.
Get your freeze-dried meal stocked up.
To be honest with you, what you should do is your money's not safe in a bank. So instead, you need to take all the money that you have and invest it into assets like boxed food.
Yeah.
Like those big buckets. Like if you honestly $10,000, what good is that doing sitting in cash underneath your mattress? You can't eat money. So put it into those survival buckets from Jim Baker or Kenneth Copeland, one of the two. They both have a great product. So I would recommend putting it in that, because truly, if it's in a bank, you're going to lose it. This way, you can't lose it. It's got like a 20-year shelf life on it. All right.
Well, if everybody just went and drew all their cash out of the bank, that'd be good too, wouldn't it?
Well, exactly.
Everybody go withdraw their.
That'd speed things up a little bit.
That's exactly what you should do. Any money in a bank, take it out. Any money in an investment in the stock market, take it. You got to take it out now. If you're going to lose some with that, you just got to take your loss and invest it in storable food. By the way, whenever those buckets go dry, think about how many use of those buckets. You could crap in it. You could
haul sand.
You could store water in them.
You could store water in them, all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Dang, that's a good point.
That's what you should do.
Can't ever have too many buckets.
No.
Just a reminder, all the stuff that you think is real and this money and all this stuff, none of it's real. Your money is just, it has no actual value. This whole system that we're all a part of here, it's all just a facade, and it just hangs by a little thread, right? So, in truth, the actual only thing that you can possess that can't be stolen from you is skill sets. Actually knowing how to do something to serve yourself, to serve your community, to make yourself valuable. It's actually the only thing that you will ever possess that can't be stolen from you. So if you take Chili's advice and pull all your money out of the bank, spend your useless currency on attaining some sort of skill sets to make yourself valuable. You know, my wife asked me the other day, she said, would you recommend that a young person join the military? And I said, you know what? Maybe I would have said that, but I've changed my mind on that. I believe a young person should go and learn a literal, tangible skill to make themselves valuable in society. I think that's a way better path than joining the military. Yeah, you learn some skills in the military, depending on what you decide to do in the military. But like a trade, man. I think you should learn a trade. So, okay. Blake, thank you for being here today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I appreciate
honored to be here.
Appreciate you being on the podcast.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Do we got anybody watching?
Yeah, we got 111.
All right. What's
watchers.
up, YouTube? All right. We're going to talk about some stuff here. Blake, I've really been proud of the tech guy here lately. We do have a new shirt out just highlighting the tech guy. You know, he's really beginning to broaden his horizons. He's starting to read more, study more. He's starting to think deeper about things, you know, and he hasn't been that way in the past. He's been very surface level, just very surface thought process, but he's really broadening his perception and in his thinking. He's now accumulated volumes of books.
That don't mean nothing unless you read them.
And he's reading and studying. And he has some things that he wants to pass along to you guys today. We're going to talk about them here. And I'm just grateful to have you, Blake, because, you know, here lately in Scripture, I've been kind of bouncing around. There's no specific thing that I've been kind of honed in on. I've been reading a lot out of First and Second Peter, First John, kind of these books here, and a lot of good things there, but I haven't really honed in on anything. So I see you've now purchased a volume of books. I would like to know, what exactly is it that you have been really honing in on here lately, friend?
Well, thanks for the introduction, although I feel like it might have had some sarcasm in there, but
well, it's psychological tricks, right? He
yeah.
gives you compliments and then beats you down and then lifts you back up. It's really abusive. It's an abusive relationship, really.
Yeah, emotionally abusive.
Yep.
No, I bought just a bunch of, most of the books I bought lately are all books that are supplemental to Bible study. And particularly, I bought these from Warren Wiersbe. I've been liking his commentary and some of his books. And so, yeah, but lately what I've been studying, well, first, let me say, did you look at that paper I gave you the other day?
No, I have not reviewed it yet.
I just think it's important for people to know, because one thing that aggravates me is when people use the Bible as a grab bag is the reference I use, where they'll just pull out scriptures of the Bible in order to support their theories. So basically they're interpreting the Bible through their lives rather than their lives through the Bible. Does that make sense? Like, they believe this thing, and so they go pull scriptures out to back up the way they live, and they don't actually read them in context. So I don't know if I'll put it out or not, but I made this just basically for me, and it's just this document, and it's like, what is the book you're studying, who wrote it, who's it written to, why'd they write it, and what are the key takeaways in it.
Why would you not put that out? Well, why would you not make that available to people?
I might.
I mean, there's other people that their mind works like yours.
Yeah, I might put it out. But the reason that I created it is because there's probably millions of resources out there that already have that information. So you might say, well, why would you do that? But there's something about going to look something up for the sake of writing it down and then actually writing it down in my mind that makes me remember it. And so that document, I just thought it would be cool to have that as you study each book of the Bible. You go through, you write all that down. It'll spread your knowledge, but then also give you something to refer back to and read it in the way that your mind processed it. So anyways, that's essentially what that is that I gave you. And so that's how I like to study. I like to read in depth and context. Sometimes I'll study topically, and I've kind of been doing a little bit of both, but I've been reading about suffering for quite a while now. And I'm reading this book called Why Us? When Bad Things Happen to God's People. And a lot of it's kind of in Job. But for a long time, I'll hear people, they'll say, if you're in like a gathering of Christians, and they'll start it and they'll say, is there any praise reports and prayer requests? And they're always, people are willing to say that, oh, God did this for me and I interpret it as good, so it must have been God's will. And these things that I perceive as bad that happened to me, I don't perceive that to be God's will, and I need prayer to get out of that situation. I don't want to be in this suffering. And it's just like back and forth with it. And I was reading this book, and some scriptures in Job really put to words what I was thinking. And the specific verses are in Job chapter 1, 21, and then chapter 2, verse 10. But 121, it says...
I got it right here.
Okay, read it.
I'll start in verse 20. Then Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell down upon the ground and worshipped and said, naked I came out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. And the Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord.
Yeah. So here, this is immediately following all of Job's servants coming to tell him what has happened. Now, all of his cattle has been either stolen or killed, and all of his family, all of his kids, also they died. It says a windstorm came, blew the house on them, killed them, and so Job is obviously, as you can imagine, probably received all this news within a matter of maybe an hour, because while one servant's speaking, the other comes. While that servant's speaking, the other comes. So it's back to back to back, and he's obviously distraught. And so it says he shaved his head, fell to the ground, and worshipped.
He also rent his mantle.
Yeah, yeah. And in the New King James, it says that he tore his robe and shaved his head. But the part that really stood out was that how he responded. You know, he did those things, but he said, "The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away." And then if you move forward into chapter 2, verse 10, his wife begins to.
I have it here.
Yeah, read it. But you might back up and read like in 9, starting 9.
9. Then said his wife unto him. So his wife didn't die.
No,
she's what he's got left.
Yep.
Then said his wife unto him, dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse God and die. Boy, that's some rough advice. And he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of God? And shall we not receive evil? In all this, did not Job sin with his lips?
So we see in that first scripture we shared how Job said, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Then his wife basically comes against him, the lady that's the person that's closest to him, and says, are you holding to your integrity? Why don't you just curse God and die? Look at all this stuff that's happening to you. And he basically says, how can we receive these good things from God, but then the bad things that happen, we're not gonna say that's from God. We're not gonna receive that. Other verses say, shall we accept good from God and not trouble? And that just just put into words well what I thought of how people think that the situations they go through and perceive as not good, and they're not, usually those are things that are not comfortable. They make us feel bad or hurt or things like that. But we say those aren't from God because they're not pleasurable. And it's easier said when you're not in that situation. But I would like to think that if I was, and I will be one day in that situation, when I have been before, and when I am, even in a significant time, I would like to think that I would say, this is your will, Lord. Here I am, your servant. This is your will. And I have to believe that this is from you. You allowed this to happen, and I'll take what I can from it. And what I want people to get is that you can't interpret this scripture by your life that you live. So the things that happen to you, you can't look for it. You can't form an opinion and then look to scripture and back it up. You have to read the word and then live according to the word, not live your life and back it up with scripture. Does that make sense to y'all?
Yeah.
Am I saying that right? I mean, it makes sense in my mind.
Yeah. I mean,
this brings me, reading this brings me to a very interesting conversation that, maybe it'll give Chili a chance to talk. But I like what you're saying, Blake, and I think that we see here in Job, the book that I'm reading right now by R.C. Sproul, Surprised by Suffering. R.C. describes suffering and death as a vocation that God calls us to. It's a job that we all have to go and partake in, and I think we see this suffering in Job's life as a vocation that he's been called to endure, right?
Mm-hmm.
the interesting part of the conversation is I hear so many Christians say every time something bad's happening, they always say, Satan's attacking me.
Mm-hmm.
It's Satan. It's Satan. It's Satan.
Yep.
And what makes it interesting is God, the creator of the universe, is completely sovereign. He's in literal control of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Satan really can't do anything without the God, the creator of the universe, allowing it to happen. He's sovereign, right?
Yeah.
We see that here in the book of Job. This is a great illustration of what I'm trying to tell you right here. So all of this suffering that Job is enduring is being caused by Satan manipulating the situation of his life, but it's all being allowed to happen by the sovereign God that we serve.
Mm-hmm.
And that ain't going to sit well with a lot of people.
No.
That don't sit well with a lot of people. They can't wrap their why? Why would God allow that to happen? Right? So yes, some of the bad things that are happening to you in life are a direct result of evil,
mm-hmm.
right? Happening to you. But in reality, sovereign God, the creator of the universe, is ultimately allowing it to happen.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Yeah. And I think that's what the book of Job answers, is not why do we suffer? It doesn't answer to me, why do we suffer? Maybe in a sense, but I think the big question it answers is God worth suffering for? I mean, that's the big question, because Job is suffering for God, just like you said, it's ultimately for God's glory. That's why he's doing it, because Satan is challenging him, saying, I bet you old Job will turn on you because you've given him all these things and protected him. No wonder he's serving you. Let me take those away and see if he serves you. And he does, and Job shows, yes, God is worth suffering for. And I think that's the question, to me, at least it sticks out to me, that's being answered. So when you're going through whatever you're going through, you can take heart and know that God is worth suffering for, regardless of the reason, regardless of how it came about or what's causing it. None of that really even matters. You know, we see Job has all these questions for God in there. He's asking all these questions. And when he hears his voice, he doesn't even ask any of the questions. He hears his voice and he's overwhelmed with God. And he says, hey, none of that even matters, because I now see how powerful you are. So he gets almost like a revelation from God, a renewing of his understanding of God's power. And he no longer cares about why he's suffering or why the things are happening to him.
And God never tells him.
No, Job never knows.
That is interesting about this book, is when Job finally does question sovereign God, why is this happening? God's response is not, well, this is why it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
God's response is to remind Job that he is sovereign.
Yep.
That he is almighty.
Yep.
That he's powerful above all. And that's all he just reminds him of that.
And that's all we need. We all want this explanation. Think back to any time you've ever suffered and you want to know why, right? Why is this happening to me? Why me? Why? But all you need to know is that God's sovereign, and none of the other stuff matters. If you can trust that, it doesn't matter why you're suffering. And we see that in Job.
we lost a family member one time, a tragic loss, and I'll never forget. A few years afterwards, we were having a conversation, and the one. I don't want to be too specific here, but we were having a conversation around this family member that we lost, and I made the comment that, well, yes, we should mourn. We miss this family member, but ultimately, I have faith that it was the Lord's decision to call him home. And I received a vehement rebuttal to my statement that it was the Lord's decision to call that person home. And the rebuttal was, no, the Lord didn't call that person home. Satan stole that person. Satan took that person. And I think that's the advice that a lot of pastors give to people who lose loved ones. Mm-hmm. That wasn't part of God's plan. Satan stole that person.
Yeah.
It's bull crap, man. If you're a son or daughter of Christ, you've been bought and paid for. Even Scripture says, I remember you quoting it a long time ago. Even Jesus said, nobody's going to take nobody from me.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing going to take nobody from me. Satan is not stealing people off this face of this earth, sons and daughters of Christ, because he has the power to do that. It's ultimately in the hands of God the Father. Mm-hmm. And whether you understand his reasons or not, I think it's a wrong way of thinking and a wrong way of speaking and a wrong way of believing to think that Satan has enough power to intervene and change the course of a sovereign God's plan for his son or daughter's life. Mm-hmm. And you might want to believe that because you don't understand the plan. But that ain't what's happening.
Yeah, and it saves the pastor a lot of explaining, because people would say, well, how is God a good God if he took my son that I loved? How is it? And then the pastor can say, well, it wasn't him, that was Satan. And they say, oh, okay, yeah, I get that. Yeah. And it saves a lot of explaining. But what you got to say, Chili?
Yeah, go ahead, Chili.
Well, no, go ahead. I'm still.
Well, one of the other things that this conversation brought me to, when we think of, when we look at Job or we look at suffering in our own lives, I couldn't help but reflect upon the book of Hebrews in chapter 12. And a lot of us say, well, how does God allow suffering? In one scenario, God will allow suffering as chastisement to you and I. All right? This is a wonderful verse, Hebrews 12. I've got verse 5 in here for some reason. Oh, yeah, I guess it starts in verse 5. And ye have forgotten the exhortation which speaketh unto you as unto children, my son, despise not thou the chastening of the Lord, nor faint when thou art rebuked of him. So God will chastise his children and rebuke you and I. For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. Every son. If ye endure chastening, God dealeth with you as a son. For what son is he whom the Father chastens not? And so here we see just a very direct example of one reason you might be suffering in life. If you're all confused. I don't think that's every case, but it wasn't Job's case.
No,
Job wasn't being chastened. And then at the very end of Hebrews chapter 11, as he's going through the kind of wrapping up the heroes of the faith, and he's describing in verse 37, the heroes of the faith, they were stoned, they were sawn asunder, they were tempted, they were slain with the sword, they wandered about in sheepskins and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, tormented, of whom the world was not worthy. They wandered in deserts and in mountains and in the dens and caves of the earth. And these all, having obtained a good report through faith, received not the promise. And he goes on to talk about we have received the promise of Christ. And I just thought, what a description of those who were counted not worthy of this world, wandering in deserts and mountains and dens and caves of the earth. But they obtained a good report through faith amongst all of that destitute, suffering, death, stonings, temptation. They earned their good report through faith amongst those circumstances.
Yeah.
That's what earned them a good report. So your report ain't going to come back so good if you have just maintained some level of faith in all these, in this easy time, right? I just thought that was something that this conversation brought me back to Hebrews chapter 11 and chapter 12 in terms of this conversation around suffering.
Yeah.
Bishop Chili.
Well, I've got a question I want to pose, but I guess I'll read this first. Made me think of Genesis 50. That is the last book of Genesis. I think it's the last book. Yeah. And it talks about the burial of Jacob and the death of Joseph. And there's a verse in there, verse 20, that says, "As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good in order to bring about this present result, to preserve many people alive." So it's just another example of, like, not only do we not understand God's plan, we don't even know what it is before, everything happens, and
you may never even see.
Yeah. And I don't know how much we can understand any of it or God's will, but I guess the question I want to ask, and maybe I'll start with this. We use the terms God's will, our will, free will, God's plan. Like, is there a difference in God's will and God's plan? I mean, I think we'll establish that's talking about the same thing, right? Okay. Is God's will always done on earth? Because, I mean, that is pretty much the definition of sovereign. I mean, sovereign's in control, right? But is his will always done?
Yes, I think it is being done.
Because that is I think if you sat people down, you would get totally mixed answers on that. And,
it is being done. That don't mean that I have to like it.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, is it always done? Because a lot of people's initial reaction is, for sure, it's all, I mean, he's God. It would have to be. Well, I mean, I go back to specific things like, was the fall of man God's will? I mean, that's hard to say it was, right? Because it's like, by definition, it wasn't, right? Like, he created the world perfect. There was some level of intention for it to stay that way, right?
Well, was free will God's will?
Well, that's what I'm getting to. Like, I can't sit here and confidently say that we have free will like we all understand it, or like I understand it. Like the free will that I've, grown up just saying without knowing what I'm talking about, I've always understood it to be like I can totally do whatever I want to do. I mean, that's free will. Like I can choose to do whatever is presented to me, But as we've talked about before, I've talked about before, is I don't know. I definitely don't think that's a correct understanding of it. And I don't know how much free will we actually have. So that, and to me, it begs the question, like, if God's will is always done, if it is always done, then what choice do we have? To me, it starts asking that question, because if it was God's will for the fall of man to happen, then they couldn't have not done it. And if you are put in a situation where you could not, like there was no way for you to not do something, then how are you culpable? Mm-hmm. Right? So this conversation brings all those questions back to the forefront of my mind, because I'm quick to say, like you can be quick to say multiple things, like multiple statements regarding this topic separately that all seem correct and seem fine, but then if you put them all together, there's some inconsistencies. Just like I think many people do. Many people have the temptation to say that good things that happen are God's will, and then they don't want to acknowledge that other things that happen that may not be as favorable to them, that's really what it comes down to, are not, that's not God's will. It's like, well, that seems like you're talking about your desires. Like, basically, if it was good for you, then it was God's will. And if it wasn't good for me, it couldn't have been. It's like, well, that's certainly not the filter it goes through. But that's many people's, I believe, inconsistent view on the subject. And, I'm thinking like, well, how much am I how inconsistent am I if I go ahead and say, yes, God's will is always done, but then not in these cases? Like, it's just, I don't know. I mean, that's pretty much all I've got to say. I don't, that's what it ends up bringing me to thinking this whole discussion, because.
Yeah. I almost think that, well, first of all, this specific topic that Chili has broached here has been expounded upon throughout centuries. Really good book if you want to dig deeper into what Chili's talking about. It's called Willing to Believe by R.C. Sproul. Willing to Believe. It's an entire volume on just this and analyzing the different outlooks on this throughout history. And here's where my mind immediately goes of what I can be sure of right now is that the fact that things are continuing, things are happening in the order, in the ways that they're happening. When I look at it from the ultimate perspective, yes, it is God's will. Because when I look at it from the ultimate perspective, the reason I have to come to the conclusion that it is God's will is because I have the faith that God could have and could at any moment end it all immediately. And when I mean end it all, I mean literally make it as if it has never happened.
Well, sure.
That's what I mean by end it all. He could literally wipe it as if it never happened. And he has the literal power to do that at any moment. So the things that are happening as they have happened since the dawn of mankind, it is his will to allow them to happen. the fact that it is happening means that it is his will. Does that make sense to you? So I can be sure about that. Because if it was not his will, and he has the ultimate power to make it as if it never happened, then that's what would happen.
Well, ultimately, a lot of people also put their faith in the end that God's will ultimately be done. And I don't know how you could put complete faith in that if you thought that all along the way there were times where it wasn't being done.
Is that his will? For that to be the case, it has to be his will for it to be done, right, literally every millisecond that passes.
Like if you had faith that God's will is going to be done in the end, but all along there's things that are messing it up, well, then he's not in. I mean, to me, that seems like, he's not in as much control as you think he is. And you shouldn't be so confident that it's going to work out good, because it seems to be messing up a lot along the way if all this stuff is not actually his will. I'm saying, but that brings us to, well, it is his will.
If you look at it from that perspective, it has to be. There's no other conclusion unless you want to disagree with me and say that God doesn't actually have the power to uncreate something that he created.
And by definition, he pretty much has that.
That would detract from who God actually is.
Yeah,
what God actually is.
That's a hard argument.
Yeah, it would be a hard argument for you to make that. But that's my ultimate conclusion, that the fact that it's happening at all tells me that it has to be his will, because if it wasn't his will, it would stop happening.
Yeah, and I can certainly follow that, but then that poses what does our will do with it? What is our will? What is our will? What is the nature of our will? Because God's would be complete. Ours is what?
I tend to believe I tend to believe more along the lines of, and this is really hard to comprehend. I tend to believe more along the lines of predestination.
Well,
that's
within the frameworks of logic and reason that we utilize. I can make a much stronger argument for the fact, for the idea that we don't have free will.
Yeah,
I really can. I mean, it's stronger than the opposite. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really is.
Well, where is free will? And I mean, I've never studied it particularly in the Bible, but is free will laid out in the Bible, like scripture about?
Yeah. And it's even talked about in Romans. And if you look at Romans 8 and really,
Paul somehow understood this very well. Well, because Paul can talk about that right alongside predestination.
Right. That's what I was getting at. Like, I don't. Yeah, I mean, basically, to me, when people talk about free will, it's like,
remember, Paul was caught up into the third heaven. He's seen some stuff me and you ain't seen.
You almost don't have to talk about free will or even mention it, because we all assume that it exists. I mean, it literally is like a function of, we would almost go crazy if we didn't all operate as if we had it. Now, this may not make sense to people, but, and not that I'm saying anything above anybody's understanding. I'm just saying, like, I don't fully understand it, but basically, free will is a function of reality. Like, we operate as if we have complete autonomy to do what we like. That doesn't mean we have it. Mm-hmm. But we certainly do all operate that way. Mm-hmm. I mean, we don't do something and then think in our head, man, isn't that funny? God made me do that. Isn't that I just ate this cookie. It's like, man, God made me do that. I mean, we don't think that way.
Well, don't you know I don't need no more sugar? What'd you make me eat that cookie for?
We'd be nuts. And to say that God is, like, essentially to say that we don't have any, choice in the matter, then you have another problem. You have, like, how is sin our responsibility? How does it fall on us then?
Mm-hmm.
But it goes back to other things that you've said. Not that this makes it easy to understand, but you could certainly argue that that's just the way it is. And not everything works out for everybody in the same way. But the traditional argument for free will is that, well, it has to be the case that we live under conditions of free will because God doesn't want slaves. God doesn't want robots. He wants people to actually choose him and love him and serve him. And how could God send someone to hell that he made reject him? That's the traditional argument. But I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I've heard another line on this topic that really made me think one time. I forget where I read it, but it was, does foreknowledge imply predestination?
Right. Well, that's the question.
Yeah. So that's a hard one to wrap your mind around.
Yeah, that's where Molinism comes in. The idea that God has middle knowledge. Like, basically, it's a way of describing something that we can't describe because it's God. But saying that he essentially has that ability because he's God, and we can't fully understand how he has that ability because there's a huge limit to what we can understand. But
so yeah, the only thing that I can be sure, the only thing that I'm sure about is that 30,000 foot view that I just went over a second ago. The fact that it's happening tells me that it is God's will, just by principle of the fact that it is happening, meaning all of this.
Well,
because it could be not happening, not ever even happened, right? So, but then when you descend into the weeds, then these conversations in the weeds have been debated upon for centuries.
Yeah. And will continue to be, but I didn't want it to get in the weeds. Really, I brought it up because it does actually, in my opinion, go along with what Blake was saying. Is like, if you establish is God's will always done, then that helps answer those questions that you were talking about earlier, like that you had with your family member that passed away. It's like, hey, look, you're saying Satan did this. I mean, ultimately, this was God's will and can be made for good. That would be the.
Well, and in light of that, what's y'all's take on the scripture about where Satan comes to steal, kill, and destroy? Do you think that's literal or not? And if so, then what is he stealing and killing and stealing?
Exactly.
So
that is, I think that is, if I dream this, like if I try to picture this in my mind, so that is Satan's goal. That is what's driving him, but he is still bound by a sovereign God. So Satan, just like many people that you probably know and see and this and that, like, he might be doing things that he thinks that he's in control of, and he doesn't even realize he is actually still bound the entire time by a sovereign God. Whether he knows it or not, it's happening. Right? And I can't help but be tempted to make the statement that God interacts with his children in our lives and actually has more control over our existence than the human beings who are not in relationship with God. But scripturally, that would be inaccurate, because we have seen sovereign God utilizing human beings in scripture who are evil and pagan and controlling their life to bring about his will, the same as he controls our lives to bring about his will. I mean, the prime example of that is Pharaoh. You know?
Yeah.
So I don't even think there's a distinction. I just think sovereign is sovereign.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just have a hard time with attempting to be consistent about, because even just your own personal decisions and your own personal sin and the good things that you do, you know, you'll see people give.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just had the whole issue, and you breezed over it, but this is a big issue in people's minds, and I'm surprised more people ain't commenting about it on YouTube, even though I'm not watching the comments. You talked about how does the weight of our sin fall upon us? How is it our responsibility, right?
Well, I said
if we're talking about it in this context of, you know, who's really in control here, right? And if our free will is not what we think it is because of our perspective on free will, if that's not the reality, how can our sin be counted against us, and how does God,
right,
why then would we need atonement? Right? I think the atonement for our sin has everything to do with God the Father establishing true and completely righteous justice. I think this is a hard conversation, but whether or not the sin that is in you is being done because of your free will or not, the ultimate reality is that it is being done. And it is being done. And so what happens is because it's being done, in order for God to be completely just, he has to atone for that. He has to.
Sure. I mean,
he has to atone for it, because if he doesn't make atonement for it, then he no longer maintains his position as God. Right?
Well, no, I knew you were going to say that, because that's essentially the argument of it, is like, whether it is actually falls on our choice or not, it's still there.
I just think we can start thinking too small about our own sin, and think that the atonement of our sin is only for us, when in reality it is ultimately to uphold God as truly just. Like, you see what I'm saying here?
That
like
was his means of fulfilling his will. He had to do that in order to remain where he's at.
Yeah. It's not even a choice for him. It's just who he is. He cannot be anything other than what he is.
Yeah.
And what he is completely pure, completely righteous, and the only true just being that exists. And so he can't be anything other than what he is. So the atonement for your sin, I think we can start thinking about it so along the lines of, well, this is for me, when ultimately it's more than that.
Yeah.
Well, we're definitely getting to the end here, because this is about to be a question that it's getting way too.
Well, get ready to take some questions over there.
But it's worth mentioning because of something you said earlier. when you said God could have done something different. And
what was I speaking about?
Like he could end this all right now. Like he could do that.
But I don't even know. I want you to understand what I'm saying when I say he could end it all right now.
Oh, I know what you're saying.
I don't mean like he could cut it off. I mean like God.
This could just
it could just have never happened.
Right. But that does bring me to the point of like when you talk about an all-powerful, an omnipotent God. And what you just said was essentially like how could he be different than what he is? Like he is what he is. I mean, I'm not saying this right, but yeah, the question is essentially, could this look different? Could this have been different? And a part of you says, well, yes, God's all powerful. He could have done this, could look any way. There's an infinite ways this could have looked. And in another view, it's like, no, this was it. Because it's hard. Oh man, it's so hard to explain, but like God, you can just stop with God is essentially. God is, period. So how could this have been different? Like this.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's either infinite options or there's one option. And you could argue that like, no, that it couldn't have been different because this was it.
Yeah.
This was.
Which I think reflects the actual nature of God, that this was it.
Yeah, which is very interesting because I was almost going to say earlier that the reason that that's hard in regarding your sin is God could essentially have set different preconditions. Essentially, well, he could have just created us in a way that like this could all be different. It could all be set up different. And then I'm like, well, maybe, I don't know if you can say that. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I get exactly what you're saying. And I think a more accurate reflection of the nature of what we know of God and his nature that he's revealed to us, the better answer to that question is this is it.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been any other way. Yeah.
Yeah, it almost seems like there's a problem with saying that, but there's a problem with saying it could have been different too. Because it's like, well, if it could have been different, then
yeah.
That is when you're really getting to the nature of God that I don't think we can.
I love where is it? I think it's in Genesis. My one of my favorite parts of Scripture is when God tries to describe himself to Moses, and he literally says, "I am." It's one of my favorite parts of the Bible. God's description of himself to you. I am. Roger that, son. Roger that.
Well, he said a word that Jews thought you'd be killed if you said, right? He said Yahweh, right? And they literally, that was literally the belief that if you uttered that word, which just because they had that belief, it literally makes it odd to even say it, but that you would be smited, essentially, like they would not say it. Yeah. I mean, it was that serious, and that essentially means I am, and that's what they. Yeah, that whenever they're writing down what was conveyed with that, they just write that word, that phrase. I mean, it's interesting.
I am so glad that I serve a God that literally is so far out of the confines of my human mind that when asked, "Who are you?" all he could say is, "I am." That's nice. I like that. I like that. Any questions from the tube?
There's not many. There's one
What's up,
here.
YouTube?
I'll tell you what, YouTube, if y'all don't start interacting more on these daggone conversations, we're just going to quit doing these live streams.
Well, there's a lot of comments. They're just not questions.
Because I'm going to get fed up with y'all if y'all don't want to interact with us.
They're just not questions.
Okay.
This Ron Pacheco, he said, so would it be possible?
Oh, Lord.
So would it be, would it be God's will for one to live sanctified and die to the flesh and another to live in sin?
Yeah, that's what we were.
Which kind of what we were talking about. But
yeah.
That's about our only question other than how tall are you?
How tall am I? 6'2".
They just said you.
6'2".
6'2".
It grew an inch.
197 pounds.
Is Chili related to you? Here's another one.
Boy, 6'2", 197. That's a hoss.
Yeah.
Did Chili change his socks this week? What age it is?
Look, what age
hey,
it is?
Look, YouTube.
It's the end of the age.
After all the stuff that we've just been talking about, that's the best questions y'all can come up with. Y'all got this. Look, whoever's asking those questions, y'all need to assess yourself. Where are you at in life? We after the conversation that we just had, if you're asking if Chili changed his socks, you need to stop just a minute, put this thing on mute, and think about where you're at in life. All right? I'm going to leave you with that.
They started kind of coming in as y'all talk.
Well, that hit him. That hit him just right.
Oh, yeah,
some people are saying this guy here.
This will be very divided.
Bearded red double alt.
Hey, guy.
He said, man, please don't stop. I love these live streams. My questions are based on, does this stuff even matter? Having these streams help me keep on the path. So that's encouraging. He's saying, don't stop. Here's my questions.
We also when he said, "Does it matter?" Is that a legitimate question about do these conversations, like, are we going to ever come to a conclusion? Is that what he's asking?
Maybe.
No, probably not.
Yeah, we have these conversations because it's fun.
Yeah,
we have these conversations because these conversations are the conversations in life that are worth having. We have these conversations because these conversations make you think deeper about the nature of God, the creator of the universe. We don't have these conversations to draw any hard lines. Actually, most of these types of conversations will only lead you to more questions, which is outstanding. That's why we have these. You want to know what matters? What matters is that you know that Jesus Christ is God in flesh, that he lived a perfect life, that he died as an atonement for your sins, that he went to the grave, that he descended into hell and bore the punishment that you deserved, then that he rose again on the third day and gave us all who believe in him victory over the punishment that we all deserve, which is death and hell. That's what matters.
He cleared up his question. He said, no, I mean, as in, is God real? Is the Lord real? As struggles in believing, these conversations help. These conversations absolutely matter.
Well, I'm going to tell you what.
Sounds like he's struggling and he's encouraging, saying,
I got you.
I'm going to tell you what. If there is no God, absolutely nothing matters.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can't even, like, the whole...
I was reading about this last night and surprised by suffering. If there is no God, I mean, down to the very foundational level, nothing matters. your moral compass, what you do, literally there can be no meaning. So, if somebody was to ask me, well, do you believe in God? I would first say, yes. I've come to the logical conclusion that this is easy. This universe and this whole thing has been designed. Yeah. Okay? That's easy. Do you believe in the God of the Bible? Well, I would say, well, what else? What else? If I don't believe, I might as well just go jump off a bridge. What else do I have? I don't have any. I have to believe this. I'm screwed if I don't. We all are. Think about that.
I got two more I'll read.
That guy's over it.
One is no, they're got good questions.
That guy's doing really good. This was his podcast.
I know he is doing good.
Robert Olson asked, this is an interesting question. If we did not have free will, would we need Jesus? Essentially kind of going back to the robot.
Yes.
Thing, right?
Yes. I just said, yes, you would need Jesus even if you didn't have free will, because it upholds God's position as God. Mm-hmm. Totally just, totally righteous.
Yeah, I don't think free will or not would nullify that, because we're still sinning.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still I don't.
That's what I was trying to get at to you guys. You think that the atonement for your sin is just for you, and so that you can go and join God in heaven after you die. It's bigger than that.
I think he's getting at sin is a result of free will, and if we didn't have free will, would there be sin in the world, and would we need Jesus? I think is where he's going with it.
Well, that goes back. That goes back to the discussion on could this be any different?
Yep.
I mean,
so that's that, and then the last one is this guy's asking for your take on his situation. Basically, Houston Skywatch. He says, "My question is dark but honest. Lost a brother not long ago to suicide. Most around me claim that was God's will, as you guys just mentioned. How do I stand on that?" So it kind of goes back to the story you were sharing, but I guess he's asking for more perspective on this as it pertains to either his actual brother or brother in some way that died to suicide.
What's this feller's name?
Houston Skywatch.
Houston. First of all, man, I hate to hear that. I could only imagine. This whole world is this life, man, is something else. It is something else. The best advice that I can give in this situation, and here's the reason why I have to give this advice, because whatever you need to hear, whatever the truth is about what you're facing, I don't have it. But I have 100% confidence that there is one who has it. There is one who has the answer for everything you're going through, everything I'm going through, everything that comes against us in this life. There is one who has the answer. It may not be the answer you expect. It may not be the answer you want. It may be the answer that you want. It may be the answer that you thought you needed. It may be something totally out there that you didn't even realize. Just like the answer God gave to Job when Job asked why. That ain't the answer Job wanted. but it was what he needed. There is one who will help you with this. The Bible calls the name the Holy Spirit of Christ. If you will seek the Holy Spirit and pour your heart out to Christ and seek him in prayer, in humility, with a humble and contrite spirit, he will provide you with exactly what you need moving forward. I'm 100% confident in that. But I don't have the answer for that, because I'm weak, fallible. I can give you opinions, but what you need is not an opinion. What you need is the truth. And there is only one source of truth. He is truth.
Or our brother Clint Ruffton hit us with $1.99 in the super chat. He got a question he wants us to answer.
Appreciate that, Clint.
Can God create a rock too heavy for himself to lift?
Clint, what if I told you that God was in a rock?
Yeah, thanks for the super chat, Clint, but that's your intellectual prowess is not showing today.
I am that I am. That means I literally am. Anything and everything that exists. Don't get confused about that, by the way.
Well, it's just it's a silly English language double negative. Can God not? That's silly. It's freaking goofy as crap. People have been asking that for years.
Have they really?
Yeah, smooth brains, man.
Is that a common question?
It's a common smooth brain question, yeah.
What are they getting at by the question?
Well, Clint,
because if God could create a rock big enough that he couldn't lift, then he couldn't do something. But it's a silly English language double negative.
Okay.
It's really goofy.
Well, here's the thing. Clint is actually a very smart guy.
Well, that's a smooth brain question.
Yeah, I know. He's probably asking that
in jest
to get us fired up. I guarantee you he is, because he's a smart dude.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that was a podcast for you. Dang near 2 hours long.
Yeah.
Good gosh almighty. It's almost 3:00.
Shut this unit down.
Good gosh.
We didn't get started till middle of the day today anyway. So
that is true. Team PT this morning, 10+ mile run. It was good. I'm keep training.
I bet you
these guys ain't. Nuff said.